There you go. I think we're recording. Thanks, Evan.
We are. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good morning from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Good morning from Southern Oregon. Yeah.
There you go. I really appreciate you chatting and talking about your roundtable session and why it's important to you. Can you give a little background information on yourself and where you come from and how you got here?
Yeah. So I am the host of three podcasts now, and I think the topic kind of ties into that. But my background, I've been a practicing architect for about 25 years. I didn't become licensed that whole time, but I still worked as an architect that whole time.
Yeah.
And I got licensed about 10 years ago now in California. And so worked as a designer, worked my way up to principal in the firm that I was at. We were a very large firm in California, HMC Architects, and I worked on, well, HMC does public projects, so schools, healthcare, civic work. And I particularly was on the education side and on the civic side. So I designed projects that were anywhere from a small library in a bedroom community all the way up to a large math and science building on a campus. And so a lot of different project types. It was amazing because working for a firm that has resources kind of taught me that you can really utilize those to jump around and try different things and as you become an architect. You're not doing everything like you would in a small firm. You would literally
Right.
you would maintain the website in the small firm. You would drop off the drawings at the city. You would get the permits. You would do the drawings. You would work with the client. In a large firm, you have a role to fill, and but you have all of this team to kind of back you up, and it really is a team sport. So I learned a lot about working with clients and communication, and that became kind of the driving force in getting decisions made and moving projects
Mm.
forward. At some point during that role, I just saw this big opportunity in the firm to. I was always interested in technology and how technology can make me a better designer, augment my process, use tools for leverage to do things better. And so this opportunity was to really take a proactive role in the strategy of technology implementation in the firm. So we created our digital practice, and I led that team and built it over a few years. We did a lot of work to kind of shift from a reactive IT kind of a mode in a firm to being a proactive, strategic mode in the firm, and doing everything that there is involved with that along the way. So that was a big shift for me working as an architect to be basically becoming a leader who was my role was really just implementing technology. And so I went away from working on projects and went into working on the firm, on the practice. And so it was a very different role where you're
Mm.
herding cats at some level, you know, because it's the Wild West in firms. And I think everybody kind of knows what I
Right.
mean when I say that. But
Well, it seems like
uh,
you'd be outward looking as a designer, client facing, and now your
right.
client is your leadership. So it's kind of inward looking, inward facing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I feel like my role as a designer played a huge role in my success in how we were able to implement that team in the practice because I had learned how to communicate with people by working with clients and multi-level
Right,
stakeholders on
right, right.
project teams and then working with the team internally. I mean, it was not too different. It was very similar in that way. And so I think that was a big part of my success in particular. And so my form of communication and the way that I led was really came out of the proving grounds of working on projects. Um, Early
That kind of
on,
consultative, taking them
yes,
along, explaining reasons. Yeah,
and being really inclusive, right? And not just
right.
saying here's how we're going to do it, but really coming to terms together and building consensus, like learning how to do that on real projects that actually got built was a great proving ground for doing that inside the firm internally as well. Yeah.
Right. So if you would talk about your roundtable session the title is along the lines of the importance of a side hustle. This
Yeah.
this emphasis for creative people, and why is that important to you? And
Yeah. So early on in my architectural career, I started a side hustle. I think at some point I was just out looking for something that would fill in the gaps. And I could, if I was, I'm an intensely curious person. I'm always learning. And I felt like I needed to satiate that curiosity in some way. And I started podcasting as a side hustle. I've done a lot of different kind of entrepreneurial things along the way, but I'll focus on this one for this discussion because it by doing that on the side, there's other words for side hustle. There's moonlighting, right? Especially
Mhm.
in architecture, if you're doing projects off to the side for clients and maybe you've got your own software and you've got your own way to deliver projects and you do that at night or on the weekends. That's one way to describe it. Another thing you could say is a hobby, right? You do
Right,
hobbies and
right.
but I think a side hustle kind of attaches like a business aspect to it.
Yeah, this wasn't
And
competitive with what you were doing.
nope, not competitive with
Right.
what I was doing, completely different, but it also is, potentially monetizable or anyway,
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
that's
yeah.
too important, but that's just kind of how I frame this. And the idea of kind of really intently um, following a curiosity, because what I think happens when we embrace that, not only we personally embrace that, but when maybe the leadership of a firm that we work with embraces that also, they'll benefit from that because it brings value back to the business because
Right, right.
it's filling me in the things that I need to be filled in personally, and that passion can then come back and inform the business, my approach, the way that I work with people, maybe problems that I solved over there will apply to the way that try to
Right.
solve
So this
problems
is
in
not
my
a
day
it's
job.
not a detriment. It doesn't create a deficit in the business. From the standpoint
Right.
of a business leader, having team members that are curious and are doing things on the side feeds feeds the curiosity. It comes
I
back.
think it makes you a more whole person. If you are willing to do that on the side, if you're willing to dedicate your time to pursuing something, it is making you a more whole person. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It doesn't mean it's for everybody, but for those
Hmm.
that do, I think it's important to embrace and encourage that kind of thing because it ultimately does feed back into this feedback loop and create a situation where that person is can offer actually even more. And it also creates opportunities that don't happen in one compartment of your life by having these other places, like by starting a podcast, for example, which is what
Right,
I
right.
did. It's created all kinds of opportunities with the AIA, with going to conferences, with building a network, with creating a community, and that is fed back into the business side as well, the career side of being an architect. All of that works together and is beneficial. So I think there is kind of that feeling in some people that, oh, it's taking you away from this thing. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is you're contracted with a person as an employee to get 8 hours of their day and no more. Right.
Right,
And I
right,
think
right.
in architecture, we do expect more out of a lot of people a
Of
lot of the
course. Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But I do think that like it's important to have a sense of how these things can feed each other and the benefits that that can bring back.
Yeah, so when we were talking about this initially, I was thinking about it in terms of, an inward facing why a side hustle is
Getting a crazy
important.
glare here. Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm gonna move.
Uh, yeah, so it was kind of framing it in terms of as the person with a side hustle, why this is important to keep them curious, to keep them interested.
Hmm.
But what you're saying is you've turned it around, saying, no, no, no. As a business leader,
Hmm.
this is why you should understand and encourage and perhaps help mentor your team that have these
Right.
side hustles and ask them, include this kind of discussion internally. Like, what are you learning from it? How is this helping you? And how does it
Hmm.
ultimately help us? But there's a balance there.
Right. Yeah. And I think that as a leader, your job is to know your people really well,
Mm,
actually know what they do. And the nice thing about a side hustle is it's not, it's not personal. It's not like personal information that's being shared. It's something that you could talk through, and it's a little actually more safe than going down that personal route. So if it's
mm,
a side hustle, if it's a side passion, if it's a curiosity, if it's a
right,
business,
right.
if it's, it's like, how can I help you? How can you find ways to encourage people? Number one, know what they're doing and take an
Yeah,
interest in
yeah.
it. But I think that all of those things play together to help you build a relationship with somebody that, again, ultimately comes back and makes your team stronger on your career side, the business side.
Yeah, ultimately, don't you want people on the team that are curious? Not distracted, but curious. I think that's a
Right.
different thing.
Right.
And as opposed to team members that are only curious and they only come in and do the work for
Check
the
the
day and
boxes.
answer the
Right.
questions, check the boxes, and then leave
Right.
again. That's someone that's kind of checked out in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I've, over my 2 decades plus in the business, there are people like that is a great job if that's what they need. If they just need to clock in and clock out and do the thing and drive the CAD machine or whatever it is for
Right,
there's definitely
right,
people like that. But I think the kind of people that you're talking about are the people that actually drive the business forward and
right,
they
right, right,
find new
right.
opportunities in the business. And yeah, I mean, those are the kind of people that I want to work with for sure because they are constantly striving for something. Like they're not just coming in and checking off the list and then day in, day out. I feel like they're at it, they're actually bringing more. And so I do feel like, yeah, those are the kind of people that I like to align with as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like ultimately it's about if you're a business leader, understanding why your team is curious, facilitating their curiosity,
Right.
mentoring it, celebrating it, ultimately.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think success on the side hustle brings success in this other part of your life. And
Right.
so I do feel like celebrating that is important because it then encourages bringing success where we can celebrate on this side as well. Yeah, it is a big feedback loop.
Evan, this is great. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in about, I think it's about 98 days
Wow.
away in North
You'll be
Florida.
here in
So
no time. Yeah.
you should be able to leave your warm vest at home. I think the temperatures would be in the mid 80s during the day, maybe mid 60s at night. You might bring the vest just in case.
Sounds nice. Yeah. Yeah. This is my Southern Oregon uniform I'm wearing today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to meeting new people and building that network. And I think it's going to be a fantastic event. I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. And you might bring your recording gear, you think?
I will, I think. Yeah, I mean, the point of the podcasting that I do now is really to bring the conversations to more people so they can be the fly on the
Right.
wall
Right.
and share that knowledge and those drops of gold that happen throughout these conversations to additional people. And so, yeah, well, I'm hoping to do some. I don't like to call them interviews. I like to call them conversations. Record those
Conversations.
conversations
Yeah.
and bring those to more people in our industry. There's an audience that is hungry for that kind of thing. They're not exposed to it
For
as much
conversations.
as they would like, and so yeah, the podcasting is a great way to bring that to the masses.
Thank you, Evan. See you soon.
See you soon.
In the
Thank you.
meantime, take care,
All
reach
right.
out.
All
All
right.
right, buddy.